the death of Jesus Christ was the only way of salvation. Now, the choice of the cross as the method for Jesus to destroy death through his own death, this method was decided, was set up in paradise. And now, we're going to explain why the cross was the only way that Jesus could have died. In the same way, the wood of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil was in the midst of paradise, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil became the reason for man's fall, for man's death. The wooden cross, which is the cross made out of wood or wood tree, became the reason for man's salvation in comparison to the wood of the tree being the reason for man's death. So that makes dying upon the cross the only way that Jesus could have died. Now, there are other elements that can explain this point more. The woman in paradise was first to consent to the trick of the serpent, to the idea of rebelling against God. In a like manner, the Virgin Mary, who is a woman, was the first to consent to be part of the salvation of God's plan. So there are other elements in the story. Adam in paradise brought death and chaos upon the creation by violating his role as God's steward. Jesus, in his full humanity, brought life and salvation to the entire creation by fulfilling faithfully his role as the steward of the creation of God. Another element: eating from the fruit of the tree brought death upon humanity. Jesus, hanging on the cross, was the fruit that we eat from that brings life to humanity. So, as you can see, the cross is one important element, but it's one of many elements that had to line up for the salvation to happen. So the elements of the salvation were determined by God. God had to use the same elements that caused the fall, the same elements to bring salvation. So the cross made it possible for God to restage the battle, to restage the battlefield for a redo. So God had to reintroduce the same elements, not different elements. Otherwise, the battle would not be equal, would not be the same. If God changed the elements, it cannot be a redo. It would be a new battle. But God reintroduced the same elements of the fall to do a redo of the battle. But this time, the result will be life instead of death. So, our gift of life every day we wake up is another chance that has been given to us by God to do a redo of our battle against the evil, to straighten things the way where we can conquer death and gain life. Going back to the theme of the cross, making the sign of the cross frequently, as many times as we can during the day, pondering upon the meaning, the significance of the cross, placing the symbols of the cross, whether we wear them around our necks, whether we have them around our homes, whether we have them as part of the arts or as part of whatever symbols we have. Singing the hymns of the cross, contemplating upon those meanings. All of these are our daily reminders that we have a new opportunity through the cross to conquer death. These are our daily reminders that our fate to dying, that we chose by violating God's commandments and rebelling against Him, was replaced with a new gift of life eternal, and our daily life, every single day, we can make a new choice and join life eternal instead of making a choice to die.